Okay, I'm here with old friend Dave Weigel of the Washington Post. Dave, you've covered a lot of CPACs in the past. What have you seen this year that's of interest and value to you?
Well, it's a lot like last year in that Donald Trump, who had to literally buy his way into the conservative movement in paying the American Conservative Union each year and coming to the conference, because how he's acted in his first year, he's a hero here. So everything is framed around him in a way it wasn't before. Issues that he doesn't focus on are not focused on here. I mean, for example, in the past at CPAC there have been debates about entitlement reform and spending, and that's not here. It's a lot more about just what the administration is succeeding on in terms of foreign policy. I mean, you heard probably more mentions of ISIS and the successful war against ISIS than you have in a lot of the media for the last year.
Although, in fairness, the president himself did not mention ISIS in his speech, and I thought that was a very interesting omission. Although the VP did hit that.
That's what I mean. Well, that seems to be the usual trend, that Pence has the structured speech hitting everything people want the White House to hit, and Trump will go off on what he's interested in that moment. But there was not a lot of energy at the conference compared to past years, except when the president was in the room.
Now, when I've done a lot of interviews here, as you know, I'm constantly interviewing people. Last year, the reviews of Trump were very mixed by the people here. People were very much unsure. The people who are here this year seem to be sure of him because of the wins. Is that going to make the difference, or a difference, in 2018 in the midterms?
Well, everyone here, I assume, is going to vote Republican in the midterms and volunteer. I was surprised that there was not more of an effort to introduce people to candidates. I think Joe Jones is running in Michigan and is seen as kind of a second or third tier candidate in Michigan for Senate. He was here. Kelly Ward was here but not speaking. So, in terms of how the conference set people up for 2018, I don't think it really did, except for saying, if you want to protect the president and his agenda, we need to turn out and vote. Everyone here, I assume, is you got to, remember, this is a place where everyone is a dedicated Republican, so they're going to, or a dedicated conservative, so they're going to come out and vote. There hasn't actually been a lot of reckoning with the challenges of the midterm, and not even, there have been mentions of the Senate map and how good it is, but, for example, there's no Kevin Kramer in North Dakota, there's no Josh Hawley from Missouri. There are the people who would be taking over the Senate. Compare this to 2010, before the first Obama midterm, where Marco Rubio is here, and everyone who wants to introduce himself as a Tea Party hero gave a speech or had a presence of CPAC.
Well, back in 2010, of course, bloggers like myself were separate from the media, and now we're all mixed together. Now, you're a regular media person, you've been doing regular media for a lot of years. How is that dynamic as a media person?
Right.
And from media people you see, do they like it? Is it changed the dynamic of how things are done here, do you think?
Well, it's very friendly now. A thing I've always, as a reporter, in the age of the president attacking fake news and pointing to the media in the back of the room and people booing, I've come to, maybe I'm a little bit naive, I've come to view it the way that if you put the picture of the Dallas Cowboys on screen, I'll boo them. I mean, like, it's a lot of rooting for your team, but when you talk one-on-one, it's very friendly. I haven't talked to anyone here who saw that I was in the Washington Post and fled or cursed or pointed, even though the president will say don't trust the Washington Post. I think it's a lot of peacocking of you can't trust the mainstream media, we can trust ourselves, but when it comes down to it, if something's accurate, people are going to go for it. And it comes to the relationship with the media and bloggers, it's very happy. I mean, if you, like me, have been coming for 10 years, or more than that, probably 12 years now, you just run into maybe a guy you had an argument with on Twitter 5 years ago, and you get along okay.
And that's really one of the things I think people miss. For example, I mean, we're diametrically opposed on a lot of political things. But every time I see you, we always sit and we always talk. And frankly, for myself, I think you were treated a little unfairly by the president because on that incident earlier. Because when you saw a mistake, you corrected it fast, but
I was unfair to him first, so you can do that. But that's the thing. I mean, I think that for the president, a lot of his attacking the media is getting the base riled up. He talks to the media all the time, and every couple weeks he invites Maggie Haberman or Rob Acosta or somebody in the mainstream media to come and talk to him. He doesn't do that for bloggers as much, right? But he does prefer Fox News to everything else.
That's true, although I am still the only reporter, to my knowledge, who has a quote from the president complimenting him after a press conference question. I've questioned him twice but that was during the campaign. Since the election, I haven't been able to get it. I haven't been able to get close.
You and I remember that period where, even though Trump was ahead in the polls, people didn't quite think he could pull it off. So those press conferences, he'd take 20 questions, and any of us could ask something, right? Yeah.
And it made a difference. Now, one other thing actually, two other things I want to bring up before we finish. One of the things that, from the people I've talked to around here, the people who are press, and not just press, but blogger press, seem to have a problem with the way the president presents himself.
Yeah.
But a lot of people say, well, his language is to me. He's talking to me. Because we cover, because we report, are we missing the regular guy message? Do we just not see it?
Well, my reporting mostly takes me around the country, so I think I see it all the time. And this month I've been in Arizona, I've been in Pennsylvania, I've been in Illinois, maybe some of that was last month. And I always talk to people who are not super engaged in politics, maybe where there's an election going on. They've heard the president, and that's a common refrain. As a reporter, I don't feel the need to go and see if people are outraged by the news thing the president says. Sometimes there are things he says that have irrational people. A lot of times, if you like him already, it's on your wavelength. You like that he's not dressing it up in a political speak, that he insulted somebody. And I actually think that the trend I've been interested in on the left is the degree to which people on the left want to hear more of that. Why people like Gillibrand and Warren and Sanders, by being very direct and saying that the Republicans are trying to ruin your lives with their policies. That's not how Obama talked. Whatever you can say about Obama always, from his debut, was we can all get along. There's red states and blue states, but we got an awesome guy. Not want to read the whole thing, but Obama's whole presentation was, I believe in people getting along. And I feel like the left and Democrats are now learning more from the Trump approach of beat your enemies, crush your enemies, make fun of your enemies. I haven't seen a lot of that reckoned with at this conference. I think there's still an obsession with Hillary Clinton, who frankly was not. She'd get in trouble every time she did that. So I think she did less negativity when she did, saying half of Trump's words are deplorables would blow up in her face. The new Democrats are not as worried about that kind of thing, but no one cares here about them. I don't think anyone was mentioned on stage, any Democrat was mentioned as much as Hillary. Certainly no one is booed as much as Hillary, who's irrelevant in Democratic politics now. All right,
and one last thing. Now, you mentioned you travel around the country, and you're very different than a lot of other reporters. That you do a lot of you are there on the ground.
I tried to, yeah.
Do the Democrats have, what are the odds on 2018 in the House? I'm pretty sure the Republicans are going to actually grow a little in the Senate because the map is just too favorable.
Right.
And the tax cuts are kicking in. Are the odds getting narrower for the Democrats? Are we looking at this too much in terms of the general numbers and not enough about the specific districts?
I think I agree with the last part, that the important thing is not the general numbers, the important thing is districts and states. However, I remember talking to Democrats in 2010 about how brilliantly they were all running individual races in these House seats. And remember, in 2010, Democrats, they lost the Scott Brown seat in the Senate. In the House, they actually gained a seat from Obama's inauguration until the midterms. They won a special election upstate New York. So they did fine in special elections and then lost everything in the midterms. The moment the national ballot matters is really in October, if people feel like they need a change. And here's the thing if I was a Republican, would make me nervous. Things would be pretty good, but people could feel like they want to check and balance on the president. In 1994, the economy was actually growing compared to where it was when Bill Clinton won. 2010, same thing. The recession was still there, but we were starting to rebound. 2014, the economy was pretty good. You can run on this one party's out of control message, and even if things are pretty decent, you can win, because I've seen it happen before. 2006, go back and look at the unemployment rate when Republicans lost the Congress in 2006. I think there are people who voted in that election for Democrats who would never vote for Democrats again, but there are now people in suburbs who, the classic voter I encounter a lot of, and I encounter a lot in Sarasota, Florida, where I just was for a special election. They bit their tongues, they voted for Trump, they voted for Romney in the past, but they think that Republicans running everything is going too far to the right, and there's policies they don't agree with. So they'll vote for Democrats. They don't think it's going to mean their taxes go up tomorrow. They just want a check and balance. And I feel like that's worth, I don't know, 10, 15 House seats on itself, by itself. So, and the rest of the campaign, I'm not going to predict, because I'm not going to predict anything ever again after 2016. Yeah.
All right, and as if people should know by now, but where will people find you? And you have a book out too, do you not?
I have a book out called The Show That Never Ends about progressive rock, which you can buy from Amazon, I guess. Well, you can buy from anything, but Amazon's the one I use and the one that owns my company. And at Washington Post is where my political coverage goes. So look for 5 or 6 CPAC stories at Washington Post for me.
All right, Dave Weigel, thank you so much for your time. Great as always.
Thank you.